Hi everyone, welcome to Roadmap for Transition from Part C to Part B. My child is in early steps and almost 3 years old. Now what? This is being presented for Family Cafe 2020. My name is Debbie Nicolosi and I am with Technical Assistance and Training System, also known as TATS. Welcome. So today's presentation will answer the following questions. What is Part C transition? How does planning help children, families, and staff? What is the role of the parent, provider, and school staff? What are IDEA and eligibility criteria? What resources do we have to support smooth transition? Transition is a process. It is not a one-time event. There's a sequence of events that have to take place before your child turns 3 to ensure a seamless transition, and we'll talk about what those events are. First thing, it takes collaboration amongst everyone involved to be able to achieve a seamless transition for children and families. So it takes the administrators of the school district as well as early steps. It takes the staff, providers, teachers, and families as well. So a review of the transition responsibilities. Early Steps has the responsibility of facilitating a transition plan for each child receiving services. So if your child has an IFSP, they will have a transition plan. Early Steps has the responsibility of providing a referral packet of information about the child, and we'll talk about the referral packet in a little bit. And the school district has the responsibility of attending the transition conferences when invited by Part C, and that is with parent consent. And the school district has the responsibility of determining eligibility for Part B services prior to the 3rd birthday. And the school district also has the responsibility of providing services to the students that qualify for ESE services, also known as Exceptional Student Educational Services. The transition process. So it begins with a transition notification. So Early Steps is required to notify the school district that a child may be eligible for Part B services at least 9 months prior to the 3rd birthday. Transition planning begins when a child qualifies for Early Steps and continues throughout the time a child receives services from Early Steps. So it's a continuing conversation of what will happen once my child turns 3, where will they go next? Families have the right to opt out of sharing information with the school district. It is not an automatic that you have to accept services from a school district. You do have the right to opt out. Early Steps schedules and holds a transition conference no later than 33 months unless a child is a late referral. Ideally, the service coordinator will try to hold the conference anywhere from 30 to 31, 32 months, giving that cushion just in case you have to cancel or the family has to cancel, and giving enough time to be able to make that 33-month cutoff. And the conference includes the primary service coordinator, also known as the PSC, the family, the LEA representative, which is also the local education agency, and that's with consent. And then any other community providers may attend depending on the family's preferences. So if there's a community provider that you're thinking of sending your child to, you can invite them as well. And a transition conference must be held with the family even if they're not considering pre-K ESE program. So some of the transition conference topics. So introductions and child's background information, parent concerns. So if a parent's concerned about a child going off to a school building, that may be a concern. And it may be that their child doesn't know how to interact with other children. So that may be something that a provider can focus on prior to that child going to school. And activities to address parental concerns. The array or the list of potential services provided by the school district. And are there additional evaluations needed before the staffing? Does the team think that they have enough information to determine eligibility, or do they feel like they need some more information? And then if that's the case, who will complete those evaluations? Will it be the school district or will it be Early Steps? They'll make those decisions. And then agencies and community providers that may benefit the child and family during the process, and timelines documented on the transition page of the IFSP. And the IFSP is the Individualized Family Support Plan. Key transition conference points to remember. So the conference is a Part C requirement and is facilitated by Early Steps staff. The LEA is invited to attend with parent permission. Families learn all about options available for children exiting the Early Steps program. And the family may decline or consent to a referral to the LEA during or after the transition conference. So if by chance you said yes, you want your child to go through transition, and then you go to the conference and you make that decision not to, you can always call your Early Steps provider and say, no, I want to decline. All steps needed for seamless transition should be documented on the transition page of the IFSP. And thinking about the transition page of the IFSP, there should be a minimum of information on there, and it should include parent concerns and strategies to address those concerns, potential services from the LEA, including how and when evaluations and eligibility determination will occur, other community providers that may benefit the child and families, skills necessary to support child's transition, and persons completing the activities listed on the transition page. And the families can always request that their service coordinator or provider attend the eligibility staffing. So an example of what might be in a transition packet, it'll be the demographic information of the child and family, written parental consent for release of information, the current IFSP, a hearing and vision screening, relevant medical reports, neurology, audiology, therapy evaluations and other assessments in the file, and the most recent BDI-2 new score report. And Early Steps will ask the family to bring the child's birth certificate to the transition conference. Here is a chart of the timeline of that transition activities. As you can see, it shows all 12 months under birthday. So and it goes January. Let's look at January. January, if it's a January birthday, the notification would be in April of the 27 month. And then transition planning would happen from April to October, between April and October. And then transition conference can happen anywhere between July and October, but no later than 33 months. And then exit BDI-2 would happen anywhere between 33 and 34 months, so October to November. And then staffing would happen between December and January, as long as it's before the third birthday. Now there's a caveat to that. If a child happens to be a late entry into Early Steps, meaning they are referred to Early Steps between 32 and 34 and a half months, these timelines may not look exactly like that. They may be delayed a little bit. So what's the provider's role in the transition process? So first things first, they're there to support the families in their choices and in preparing for meetings with the school staff. They're providing transition progress reports in a timely manner to the LEA and attend eligibility staffing when possible. And then they're assisting the LEA staff in understanding the child's needs and developing goals and strategies if the child is eligible for ESE services. So the provider transition reports that I just talked about on the slide previously, the written reports are very important. So reports detail the child's present levels, areas of need, and rate of progress. And standardized test scores, if there was a standardized test that was just administered, those scores should be included. And just a side note, providers shouldn't talk about or discuss eligibility outside of the initial eligibility and staffing. So the Florida Child Outcomes Measurement System, if a child has had an IFSP in place for at least 6 months, Early Steps will administer an exit evaluation, also known as the BDI-2 new. In some cases, Early Steps BDI-2 New serves as the entry assessment for Part B, as outlined by the Department of Education Child Outcomes Measurement System. So, eligibility determination. The LEA uses a variety of evaluation and assessment tools when determining eligibility. And some examples are ITDS, that's Infant Toddler Developmental Specialist, progress notes, or they can use therapy notes if there's a therapist providing services to the child. A developmental or psychoeducational evaluation, such as the BDI-2 New. The next one is the WIPSI, the DP3, DAISY-2, or ADOS. Those are just examples of developmental or psychoeducational evaluations. Formal speech, language, OT or PT evaluations, and any other collateral information pertinent to the child, and medical reports. And a social developmental history will be done by the school district. And typically the eligibility staffing happens typically about 3 to 4 weeks prior to the child's 3rd birthday. And formal evaluations, the provider reports, therapy evaluations, social history, and medical reports, they're all reviewed by the LEA assessment team and the parents. And Early Steps providers participate in the eligibility recommendations if they attend the staffing. And ultimately, the DOE criteria must be met for eligibility. And who attends the staffing and IEP, or who can potentially attend? So the parents and guardians, a school psychologist, an SLP, speech and language pathologist, ESE teacher, pre-K staffing specialist. It could be an ITDS that attends. A service coordinator from Early Steps program may attend. Specialized staff from the school, such as a nurse, occupational or physical therapist, translator, or social worker may attend when appropriate. Now, the most eligibility outcomes depend on these 2 questions. Does the child meet the Department of Education guidelines that define the potential exceptionality? And does the team have clear evidence of an educational need for exceptional student education for the child? So there has to be an educational relevance. The Early Steps provider's role at the staffing is to provide information about the child's progress in areas of strength, provide information and assist with identifying areas of delay, assist with determining eligibility and need for ESE services, assist with developing goals for the individual education plan, also known as the IEP, and support the parents with asking questions. Sometimes it's like going into a doctor's office where when you walk in, you're a little nervous and you really don't know the questions to ask. And when you walk out, that's when you think of all the questions that you should have asked. Well, having the provider there as your support, they can ask those questions. Children face many changes when they transition. Their daily routine may look a lot different, may not look a lot different, maybe just a little bit different. They may have more activities, transitioning from one activity to another. They may go to a lunchroom for lunchtime. They may have some structured outdoor time. And then there's new expectations. They have classroom rules. There's going to be developing new friendships. They'll have expectations of social emotional skills, problem solving skills. And then also the other changes, new building, new people, larger class size, transportation. And then students must register to access school for the pre-K ESE program. And the paperwork that is needed is the original birth certificate, social security card if available, photo ID for the parent or guardian, school physical form, the original copy, Florida certificate of immunization, the original copy, proof of residency, so utility bill, landline, phone bill, lease agreement, rental agreement, or a mortgage letter, and then proof of custody only if the child doesn't live with the natural parent. So here's some resources from the Florida Transition Project, and you can find them on www.floridatransitionproject.com website. And they have some tools. Getting to Know Me is a booklet you can fill out to provide some information to the teacher regarding your child. And then Getting to Know Your New Teacher in School, Teacher to Teacher booklet, and Transition booklet for families transition at the age of 3. And here's another resource from TATS. It is Transition from Early Steps to School District or Community. It is our newsletter specifically designed to discuss the information with families. And here's books that will help children to understand transition. This is not an exhaustive list, but this is a really good list of books. Bernard Goes to School, Billy and the Big New School, Busy at Daycare, Emily's First Day of School, First Day Jitters, Froggy Goes to School. I always love a Froggy book. And then here's some other resources on our TATS website. So they are TATS Talks with Families, additional ones. So here's Transition from Early Steps to School. And then TATS Talks. This is about the IEP, Parents' Rights and Roles. And here's some additional resources. Here's a link directly to the transition book for families. And then here is a YouTube video, and it discusses Part C to Part B. And then here is top 10 ways to support transition in young children. So back to our training objectives. What is Part C transition? Exiting early steps and entering LEA or community services. How does planning help children, families, and staff? It ensures a smooth and timely transition. What is the role of the parent and provider? Share child's strengths, needs, and present levels. What is the role of the school, district staff? Attend transition conference and determine eligibility and develop that IEP. And then what resources do we have to support transition? TAT's website, libraries, and community resources. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch the presentation, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the presentations at Family Cafe. Have a great day and stay healthy.